Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. Just got the cup of my book. I'm a bit tatty and all over the place this morning. I've decided to take the opportunity to do a spring clean of my house, and now wish I hadn't. So I'm multitasking this morning. You should have had an email from me telling you what's going on this weekend. There's a lot of stuff going on this weekend, campaigning and other events. So if you can make it along and help out, please do. Um, Very briefly this morning, I wanted to mention something that people often don't like me mentioning. And I understand why. They think that it puts us on the defensive. And as I said, I understand why. But this is a major concern. And it was brought up to me twice in the last week by activists in the party. And it was unfortunately, the far right label. And one of them was following what I'd said last week about Jews and the far right, and that this far right is tiny and it's really the left and Islam they need to be worried about. One person did say to me that many Jews are worried by the far right label of people like myself. And that they're worried essentially if they'll be next, if we get into power on a background of opposing Islam, whether they'll be next. Um, a second person said to me over the weekend that one of the reasons that he so wants me to succeed and wants us to succeed and wants for Britain to be a force is because he doesn't want the real far right coming back. So it's important, and I think if people, I think this is a widespread concern, and I think it really needs to be addressed. Even if it does seem to put us on the defensive, it does need to be addressed because I think it's a widespread concern. So we need to make a few things clear about what we stand for, and that the far right label is simply a smear by a media which doesn't want us to succeed. So we are no threat to any minority. I certainly have never expressed anything that makes me a threat to minorities. I believe fully in individual civil rights, and we will all have the same individual civil rights. Our society will be based, however, on the culture and mores and morals of the majority. We will not have a majority which is going against its conscience in order to accommodate minorities. Everyone will have the same rights, but we will, for democratic reasons, have a society where the majority's wishes are respected. And of course, in our case, that means that the public space, the democracy, our democratic process reflects the values of the British majority. So we are not a threat to minorities. I also understand clearly the difference between democracy and tyranny of the majority. And tyranny of the majorities is when the majority decides to remove the rights and oppress minorities. This is not what we are talking about. We are talking about democracy with minority rights as protected as part of that, with equal rights for everyone under a single law decided in our parliament. We are pro freedom of speech. We think everybody should be allowed to express their views without losing their jobs, without being threatened, and we believe in liberties, in the liberty to live our lives as we see fit within the law. But we will not tolerate, and we will not tolerate alien cultural practices which we find to be immoral, such as, of course, the obvious ones like apostasy violence, or threatening people for blasphemy, or demanding that all of society stay quiet in order not to offend your feelings. No, we believe in freedom of speech and robust debate, and we'll defend that. We believe in the equality of all people before the law. That is a democratic value, and we are Democrats. We believe in the equal rights between men and women, but we also believe in stable and we believe in equal rights, of course, among races. But we also believe in stable and sane democracy. You simply cannot have an open border. We need a sane and sensible immigration policy. An open border is a disaster for so many reasons. It's a resources disaster. It's a planning disaster. How can we possibly plan how to run the country when we don't know how many people are going to be in it this time next year? It's a disaster. It's a mess. And it's an extreme ideology that calls for open borders. We are the moderate voices. We are the sane voices. And it is the pro-open border extremists are radicals. It's a radical, open border is a radical and dangerous idea. And we will not, we don't have any, obviously, everyone, as I've said several times, everyone has the same rights, and we do have religious freedom, but we will not have laws broken in the name of religious freedom. And at the moment, particularly, of course, with Islam, we have the law of the land is subject to Islam and not the other way around. It must be the other way around. And even if that means that we're singling out one religion for specific criticism, then so be it. We will restore some law and order and apply the law to Islam. We will also very much need to talk about, I suggest we halt immigration altogether for a few years at least, but we very much need to talk about what kind of immigration. A point system is all very well, but it's what those points are that are going to matter. And I think one of those points must be that we cannot and should not be importing incompatible cultures which are going to conflict with our own and are going to cause problems. Why are we inviting these troubles onto ourselves? So yes, I think we need a serious debate about actually ending immigration from specific countries because of their cultural and religious practices. None of this is extreme. None of this is far right. We are simply sane and sensible. But I want to reassure people, and I don't want to be doing it over and over again, because I do understand people's concern about me addressing this at all. But it must be done, and it must be made clear. We are not a threat. We don't believe in violence. We want to use our democracy. We want a civil society where all are treated equally, but all are also responsible to society. We want a society of rights, but also of responsibilities. But we are no threat to any minority groups, and people really need to understand that this far-right label is a smear. And I will say that it seems to be reducing. The last 2 times I've been mentioned on the BBC, I notice they have stopped calling me far-right and have started referring to me as right-wing, which is not accurate either. But as I'm neither right nor left. But it shows that they're sort of toning it down a little bit. So we are getting through, and we are making this clear. We're a sane, sensible, decent, pro-British, pro-democracy, pro-decent majority party. No threat to any decent people at all. In fact, quite the opposite. Okay, I think that's enough for me this morning. I shall be back. Yesterday didn't go as I wanted it to go, but I will be following that up, and I'll let you know in due course. Back here tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So take care until then.